Okay.
Just cut me out.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I'm sure most of you know me because I'm going to post this on my Facebook. So nervous about it. Please don't judge me. I really felt the urge to make this video today. I've been thinking about it for months, but I thought I had to write everything down and get all my thoughts together before I said anything, and I just feel like I need to do it today. It's just on my heart, and I just need to talk about it. So, you're about to get to know me a lot better. I'm about to tell you a secret that I never even told my family until I was 19. It was 6 months ago. So, Steven's here for support. You won't hear him, but he's over there. This is like a big deal for me. Basically, this video is my story and my struggle with OCD and intrusive thoughts. So, I want to start off by saying too that if anyone out there has OCD or any other form of mental illness and you're scared to come out or you're hiding it, I hid it for 19 years. I didn't tell anybody until it got so bad I had to. Please come out. Please find someone. Someone will care. You don't have to hide by yourself and deal with it alone. It is such a hard thing to suffer with by yourself, and you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not. Listen to me, you are not crazy. I struggled with that for a very long time. So, we're gonna start where it all began. My hair is a bit wet, so it looks a little weird, but just ignore that. So, when I was like 5 years old, I was in my porch at my house, and I was bouncing a basketball, and I felt like I had to bounce it a certain amount of times. I had to do it like, I think 3 times. My number was 3 back then. I had to bounce it 3 times, and I was so confused. Like, I didn't understand why I felt like I had to do that or something bad would happen. Like, I just needed to do it that many times. So, I went to my mom that night and I said, Mom, like, I feel like I had to bounce this basketball 3 times. She said, well, Katie, we'll have to get into therapy for that. I had something like that when I was little. I didn't really know what she meant, but the word therapy, for some reason, scared me to death. Scared me so badly, and I never told anybody about my OCD after this point in time. I told my mom, I won't do it again. I'll ignore it. I won't do it. And she was like, okay. And if she heard about it again, she would have probably taken me to therapy, like if I talked about it again, but I never did. I hid it forever. And I knew. I don't even think you understand. If you're out there and you think you can't tell someone, if I can, you can. I knew. Never gonna tell anyone. Never telling anyone in my life about this OCD. I will never tell anybody. I pretended my whole life I didn't have it, and inside I struggled so badly. But ever since I came out, like, we'll get to that. So, growing up, we had tiles in my kitchen. I always had to step on the tiles on the floor and not on the lines. I couldn't do that. I had to go through the left archway and not through the right archway. I had to do things on the right and on the left. I had to blink at least 40 times. The number grew from like 4 to 40. So it was insane how much I was doing. I was just blinking, and I'd count it, and it had to be even numbers. It could be 4, 8, 16, 24, 20, like anything like that. So I had to blink so many times, and I had to go back and touch things so many times. Like, everything I had to do when I was little was doing it multiple times, but I hid it. Like, if my parents noticed or if my friends noticed, I'd be like, no, I was just doing this. I was just getting this. I would make an excuse up and lie about it because I just felt like I didn't understand what was wrong with me, but I knew other people didn't do this. So I didn't want to talk about it, you know? I was touching things all the time. I was always washing my hands. For a point in time, I was always washing my hands all the time after I touched something. And then it got to like, if you don't do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, this will happen. Like, bad things will happen if you don't do this. So I felt so strong like I had to do these things, whatever the thought was telling me to do, or else something bad would happen to me or my family members. Just something bad would happen. So that was awful. Everything I did was 1,000 times. Like, I know that's exaggeration, but that's what it felt like. It was just touching things like 1,000 times like this, blinking 1,000 times, running back and forth 1,000 times, not stepping on certain things, not going through certain doorways. It was a lot. That was my childhood, you know, and I did have a really good childhood, but it was also mixed in with this OCD that I was hiding. So one night I was sleeping with my parents. I don't know why, I was in the middle, and I got an intrusive thought. And I've never talked about this, but I got an intrusive thought, and I probably won't come out and say what my thoughts were about at this point in time. Just know that they're really dark and really scary to have, especially when you're like 8 years old. That's probably how old I was. And I didn't understand them, and I was like, this is not me. This thought's not me. Like, why is that in my head? And being a little kid, I was so confused, and I thought, well, maybe if I don't if I don't go in the middle of anybody anymore, that thought won't ever come back. Like, if I don't read that book I was reading that day, then it will never come back. Like, I don't know. It was just weird. So I had this thought, and I remember laying on the couch for 3 days. And I remember as a little kid being like, nothing's funny anymore. Like, that was what I thought. Nothing is funny anymore. That was like, I feel like I was just so down. I just didn't understand what's going on. And as a little kid, the only way I could express that was nothing's funny. Like, nothing, I can't laugh. Like, I just don't feel happy. And I was just so sad. I laid on the couch for like 3 days, and it was just such a hard time. And then in my head, I made like an arrangement with myself. I'm like, let's just do, I was like, I'll just tap things, I'll do that type of problem a ton of times, and then I won't think about the thought. And for some reason that worked. Like, my head thought I could make it work that way. So I just like, I had all the rest of the OCD from before, and the thought went away. Like, I was like, no. I don't know how I did that, but when I was little, it went away. Anyways. So then throughout middle school, like, I would touch things. My friend Darby, she would be like, oh, she's just doing that thing where she goes back and touches something again. I was like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. Like, I would get so scared that she even noticed that I did something. And it was just awful. Like, my whole life was secret, years, and I didn't tell anybody. Just touching things and touching things and touching things, and being scared that bad things would happen, and not doing things that would happen, getting intrusive thoughts that were terrifying and so dark and so evil and so not me that it was horrible. And it made me feel so bad, and it made me feel guilty, and it made me feel sick. I remember the thought came back. I was in grade 9, and it was there the whole year. I couldn't get rid of it. For the first few months, I was so guilty about these thoughts that were in my head, because I just didn't understand why they were in my head. Like, they weren't mine. I had these thoughts in my head. My hair was falling out. I couldn't sleep. My stomach hurt. I couldn't eat. I was so guilty because I didn't understand. I was like, am I crazy? I thought I was crazy. And then eventually, after that year, the thoughts kind of dissipated because I met Steven, and I had my mind, for some reason, focused on this really good thing that happened in my life, like Steven. And so I was just always focused on him. I was like, oh, he cured me. Like, that's what I thought. Like, oh, I'm cured. But I wasn't. I was still touching things and dealing with that. But I didn't care about that as long as the intrusive thoughts were gone, because the intrusive thoughts are what made me have to come out in the end, because I could have dealt with touching things and being frustrated over that and being so annoyed. But I could not deal with those thoughts in my head. And they got way worse than ever before, right before I came out and told people. So we'll get to that. Throughout high school, I think I was dating Steven for like a year. That's my husband, by the way, if you don't know me. And I just felt like my OCD was getting so bad again. I had to touch things many times. I started getting thoughts about him, and I was just so scared. And I have to tell him. I felt like I was going to lose him, and he had become so important to me. I had to tell him. So I was on the phone one night, and I was shaking. My whole body was shaking, and I was like, Steven, I have to tell you something. Like, I have OCD. He's like, what's that? I didn't say anything about the intrusive thoughts. I just first said I have to touch things a certain amount of time, and as the years went on, I opened up more to him, only to him. I only ever told Steven, which made it really hard for me because I became very attached to him. He's the only one who knew my struggles, and he lived so far away from me, and it was really hard. But I was terrified to tell my family. I was like, I'll never do that. It'll wreck my family. They'll hate me. They'll hate me for lying to them all these years. They'll be so upset with me. They won't understand why I didn't tell them, and they'll think I'm crazy. They'll put me in an institution. Like, that's what I thought. I was so scared. I thought I was going to be sent away to like a mental asylum or something. I don't even think those exist anymore. I don't know. But anyway, throughout high school, the OCD got really bad. The intrusive thoughts were all throughout high school, but more so the tics, the touching. Like, by the time I got to grade 12, I just want to say first, if you were in my class in grade 12, I just want to say I'm sorry because I had so much hate in my heart. I was so frustrated with my life. I didn't want to exist anymore. I wanted a different life so bad. You'll understand, I'll explain more, but I'm so sorry if I kind of lashed out at you or if I took it out on you. I really took my frustrations out on the people around me at school. I did not want to be there. It was really bad, but I'm really not that negative of a person, and I feel like everyone thinks I'm so negative because of how I acted when I was going through like such a difficult time. I'm really not when I'm healthy. So I am sorry if, I've wanted to say that for a long time, if I ever was rude to you, it was uncalled for, I'm sorry for that. So I'm going to run you through a morning with me going to school in the 12th grade. So basically, I wake up, have to blink a bunch of times. I'd never had a number at this point. It was never 4 times and I'm good, 16 times and I'm good. Now it was until I felt good, until it felt better, until it was relieved. Like the pressure to do it, like the intensity, like something bad will happen if you don't do this, so do it. It was just until it went away. Like I had to do it so many times until I felt relieved of that. So in the morning I would wake up and I would do that, and then I'd turn over so many times, look at my iPod, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, throw it. It'd be like a lot of jagged movement, like a lot of rough movements like this, like a lot of this back and forth, and I'd get sore. I'd get headaches from the blinking, and I'd get so sweaty from all the things I was doing. I'd try to get out of bed, and I'd have to go back on the bed, put my feet on the floor, back on the bed, feet on the floor, back on the bed, feet on the floor, back on the bed, over and over again. And then I would get up and walk in my bedroom and try to go out into the hallway, go in and out the door, 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 go back into my iPod, put it up and down off my bed, put my feet, go down back on the bed, put my feet off and on, like so many times. It took so long. I had to wake up so early just to get ready for school because of this. And then I go into the bathroom. Anything you can imagine. We had a tub, we didn't have a shower, so washing my hair, I had to do it like 8 times. Conditioner, I had to get in and out of the tub so many times, and our tub is really rough on the bottom, so it used to cut my back, and my back was just cut up all the time from scraping on it because I'd have to go up and down all the time to rinse my hair. And by this point I was just very frustrated, you know, like it was taking so long to get ready. My body hurt. I had a headache from all these jagged movements, these rough movements I was doing. I was just going like this all the time, like, oh, it hurt so bad. And so I get out of the tub finally, and then everything else you can imagine, like any little mundane task that you have to do, any little small task you have to do 1,000 times, like, and there was no way it felt better. And like even if you felt like you were done doing it, like if I went downstairs after getting ready for school, I went back in my bedroom, did the iPod thing again 1,000 times, went in and out of my bedroom 1,000 times, sat on my bed again 1,000 times, even after I was ready, I go downstairs and I grab my book, I have to go upstairs again and do the bathroom thing again. Like, it's awful. There's just so many little ticks and so many little things that you have to do, and it used to just bother me so badly. And by the time I get out of the door for school, I'm frustrated, my head hurts, I'm sad, I don't like my life, I don't understand why I'm like this, but I know I'm never going to tell anybody because I'm just so scared. And I don't know why I'm so scared, but I never was going to tell anybody except for Steven. And so I get to school and then I can't take notes because every word I write is not perfect, it's not right, it's not, I don't get a good feeling when I write it, so I have to scribble it out really hard, and then I get really frustrated and I scribble so hard I break through my pages. I have 3 distance ed classes in a row where I can't do work on the computers because I felt like I couldn't or else something bad would happen. So I sat there for 3 hours straight and didn't do anything. And it was so hard because I just felt like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do my homework, I couldn't do assignments, I couldn't do them the way I wanted to. Like if I'm doing a report, I couldn't use a certain word or a few certain words or multiple certain words. Like a lot of them. I had to backspace and retype things so many times. I'd get so frustrated. A report that would usually take you like 30 minutes took me an hour and a half because I had to backspace everything so many times and type it back again so many times. And all this while I pretended I was normal. I pretended I was fine, and I wasn't. From the beginning, like way back, from when I was a kid, I pretended I was normal again, that I was okay on the outside, and I wasn't. I was really not okay. I used to cry at night when I was little about this OCD, and I didn't understand what it was. And I used to cry and cry and cry and tell my parents I was crying about my dog dying or something else random so that I could cover it up and still cry about how I felt inside. There's more that I want to talk about. It's just so hard. This is like a lifelong thing that has happened. It's a lifelong story. So if anyone has any questions, you can comment them. I'll answer them. I might do another video, but I really want to get this whole story out. I'm just doing this really spur of the moment. I really feel like it's on my heart to speak on it. So if anyone has any questions, ask me, please. Anyways, so I feel like it's important to say what the intrusive thoughts were about for this next part. Basically, the intrusive thoughts were that I was going to hurt other people. It was me being terrified that I would hurt another person. And it was awful because that's not me and that's not who I am. And to have thoughts like that in your head, it's disgusting to you, it's awful, and you don't understand what's going on, and it was just awful. Also, as I was growing up, I found out what OCD was from my mom talking about her OCD as she was a kid, and I pretended I didn't have it. I was like, oh no, that's crazy. And from seeing it on TV shows, I barely looked it up because it triggered me a lot to look it up. It scared me a lot. So I didn't really look up OCD, but I knew from the few times I did that that's what I had. Anyway, back to where I was. I'm sorry this is so jumpy. This is just like a really spur of the moment thing. So my thoughts were about hurting other people, being terrified I was going to hurt another person. Like people that I cared about the most, my mom, my sister, Steven, my dad, anybody. That's why I couldn't go to my dad's house like for years, and I still can't because I'm terrified something like that would happen when obviously it wouldn't, but it doesn't matter. Even though you know obviously it wouldn't, the thoughts terrify you so bad that you feel like that's what would happen, so you avoid things. So I always had to avoid certain places growing up. If I had intrusive thoughts around this place, or I did things at the time I had the intrusive thoughts and then I didn't have them anymore, I wouldn't go to those places anymore. I never did my hair. If you knew me in grade 9, you knew that I did my hair a lot, and ever since then I haven't. I just started to recently, but all of high school I didn't really do my hair. I did the same thing with my makeup. I couldn't do anything else. Yeah, I couldn't do a lot of things. And so then as it gets to Steven and I got married. Throughout that whole year, I still struggled with the OCD. I still struggled with intrusive thoughts. I struggled with it the whole time, but it just stayed the same amount of bad. Like, it didn't get much worse until we moved into our apartment here alone. And the thoughts were about him, and I love him so much that the thoughts were horrible to have in my head. And so when you love someone so much and then you have these thoughts that are not yours trying to take over your head, it's horrible, and you don't want to live in your head anymore. Like, this is gonna get really deep, and I don't want to upset anybody, but before I got help, this is around October, November, December, those 3 months were the worst months of my life ever. And Steven, instead of my husband, for a long time was my caregiver. I couldn't do anything. I didn't do the dishes, I didn't clean, I didn't shower, I didn't eat. I lost 20 pounds. Everything I tried to do, I couldn't. The thought screamed in my head at me and said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that, or else this is going to happen. This is going to happen if you do that. So, and I believed them. I was so scared that something bad would happen if I did these things. So I tried so hard and I just couldn't. I exasperatedly and desperately cried every day. It's amazing that I can talk about this without crying, because every single day and every night I would cry about this to Steven, and he just wouldn't know what to do, and he was keeping this secret from me too, and I didn't know what to do, and it just got so bad. I couldn't eat any of the food in my cupboards. I lost so much weight. I didn't shower. It was awful. I didn't want to go out. I couldn't wear makeup anymore. I couldn't put on majority of my clothes. Each one had a bad feeling, a bad thing that would happen if I put it on. so I couldn't wear any of them. It was awful. And I always had the clothing thing and some makeup things and a little bit, and the hair thing, like I told you earlier, like I couldn't do my hair, but like all throughout high school I had things like that, but not this bad. I couldn't wear like any of my clothes. I wore the same gray sweater all the time. It was so awful. I cried. I started self-harming, which was terrifying for Steven. It was just a really rough and hard time for us. Yeah, it was awful. I've never had a worse time in my life than those 3 months of my life, and I'd wake up and instantly start like crying, but it wasn't just like a cry, it was like desperate, like I needed help, and I didn't know how to go about getting it. And then one night we were sitting on the couch, and for a few weeks I had thought, I'm gonna have to tell my mom about this OCD because I can't do this anymore. Every day when Steven left for work, I would say, I'm probably not gonna be here when you get home. I felt like I had to end my life to save the lives around me. I felt like if I didn't do that, then everyone around me would be in danger. And I honestly felt like that. Like I thought about it all day, all the time. I always knew I always felt like my life would end that way because I knew I had to do it to save people. Had to do it to save people. That's how I felt so strongly, and it was horrible, horrific. So I used to tell Steven, you're gonna come home, I'm not gonna be here. Like, I don't care anymore. I was never happy, never positive, never anything good. It was always, always, always sadness, depression, loneliness. I got numb to my feelings. I didn't feel anything anymore. I literally just wanted to exist. I used to tell Steven, I don't want to kill myself, but I wish I would die somehow so that I don't have to. And that's really deep, and that's really vulnerable to talk about, but I think it's an important thing to talk about. We have struggles on earth, and I think it's important to share them with others and know that there is another side. It's not always going to be horrible. It's not always going to be bleak and like you have no future. I thought I wasn't fixable. I thought I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna be myself again. I'm never gonna be happy again. I knew these things. Like that's how I felt. So for a few weeks I built up in my head, I'm gonna tell my mom about my OCD. I have to tell her. I started looking it up a little bit, and I read about the intrusive thoughts, and I realized that I wasn't crazy for once. I realized that these thoughts I didn't realize I wasn't crazy, but like I realized that they were probably for my OCD. So, because they were like other people had the same issue I had. So, I was talking to Steven. We were watching Game of Thrones, and we haven't watched it since. We were watching Game of Thrones on the couch, and a scene came on, and it triggered me. And Steven goes to make craft dinner. I get so panicked that I would hurt him that I run into the bedroom, pull on my clothes, which I also haven't worn since. This is the OCD. I pull on my clothes, I run downstairs, and I sit in the bottom floor of our apartment, and I cry, and I cry, and I cry, and I'm not going to go back in the house because I'm just not going to go in there. It's dangerous in there. To me, I was a threat to Steven, so I ran downstairs, and I didn't want to go back upstairs. And Steven called me, or I called him, and he's like, where are you? I was like, I'm downstairs. I can't go back up. Like, I used to just ramble on about things. Like, I used to pace around the house and cry and ramble and just not know what I was talking about and be so confused about life. I was so upset, and that's what I was doing downstairs. I was just rambling. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't. I'm gonna die if I don't do this, because if I don't tell my mom, I will die. I will not live like this. And so he came downstairs, and he's like, Katie, you can tell your mom. Like, you can tell her. So we go into the car, and I get ready to call her for like 20 minutes. I have her number on my phone, and I'm sitting there trying to click it, like her FaceTime, trying to click it, and I keep saying, no, I can't. Because you have to understand, my whole life, I built up this huge thing that I would never tell my mom. Never tell my mom. what I was struggling with. This whole OCD thing, the thoughts were telling me, screaming at me, you can't tell her. And I was so panicked, and I just built this up my whole life that I can never tell my mom, I can never tell anybody. I'm not fixable anyway. So then finally, after so many moments that seemed like hours of hovering over her name, I clicked it, and I just burst into tears, and I started explaining everything, and just a huge jumble of words came out, and she didn't even blink at it. She didn't even look at me. I thought she would look at me differently. I thought our relationship would change. I thought she would think I was crazy. I thought that she would put me away somehow. Like, I was so scared of all these things, and that she would judge me. And she was so loving, so accepting, so understanding, and she said, we're gonna get you help, and that's fine. Like, OCD is curable. Like, most cases it's curable, so this is good, Katie. Like, thank you for telling me. And then she started getting upset because, you know, in a way of feeling bad for me to struggle with this for so many years by myself. And I told her, and it was crazy. I never thought I would ever do that. But then for the next month, I didn't get help. I was so scared to do that. I thought if I told a doctor, he would think I was crazy. Like, it was a whole thing. Again, I felt the same horrible way. I couldn't do anything. I lost all that weight. I couldn't function normally as a normal human being. I couldn't imagine getting a job. Couldn't imagine ever in my life being a mother. I know I'm not a mother now, but I would like to be one day. And before, never thought I would ever be a mother. I couldn't even be a good wife to my husband because he was taking care of me. He would do everything for me, like literally everything for me, because I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't even have the strength to stand up anymore. It was horrible. And around Christmas, I was calling my mom every day, and I was crying and crying and crying and wanting to die and not wanting to be here anymore, and just wishing. I remember this one thing I felt like, I just felt so strongly like I wished I could have escaped my mind. Like, I just said, I wish I could escape my mind. I just want to leave my mind, because these thoughts were so intense, and they were constantly, from the moment I woke up to when I went to bed, banging at my head. Like, it just drove me somewhere horrible. So my mom, Stephen asked for work off early. I went home to Graham and Ann earlier than we were supposed to for Christmas break. And I went to see the doctor. He prescribed me some medication, and I didn't want to take it. I felt like if I took it, it would prove to me that I was crazy, because it wouldn't help me, and I would just prove that I was crazy, or that I actually would want to hurt people, and I was so scared of that. So I did end up taking it, because I felt like I had to do it for the people around me, not so much for myself, but because I loved these people. I didn't want to see them hurting because of me, and I decided there's nothing I could really lose from taking the pills. I was terrified, but I felt so much better just after a few days. And after a few months, it's been 6 months now, I applied for a job. I wear makeup, I do my hair, I wear all the clothes that I want to wear, I film videos. Like, I do so much now, and I never ever 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 thought I could do this. I never thought I would ever tell anybody about this. I never thought I'd ever make this video, and I still don't know if I'm gonna post it because it's really intense, but I never thought I would ever do any of this, and it's insane that I am right now. Like, I struggled all through high school, all through middle school, all through elementary. My whole life I struggled with this. I was doing things so many times, and I still do things. I still struggle with things. I still struggle with little tics. I have to do things multiple times sometimes, or I still have the random intrusive thoughts sometimes, but it's not like it was, and I can handle these. And I'm just so grateful for the help I got from my family and for Stephen, above all, except for God, which I'd like to get into. God is literally the only reason I'm still here, because I had a tiny, tiny amount of hope that he would lead me through it, that he was real and he was there, and I knew he was real, and I knew that I should not end my life. And even though I felt like so strongly that I had to, I stuck it. I just tried so hard every day. Honestly, it was a miracle that I made it through each and every day. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know. I must have been Jesus, because it wasn't me. It wasn't the strength. I did not have the strength to stay on this earth. But I pushed somehow through Jesus. And he really did save me. I truly think, or God uses many ways to heal people. And I think he used this medication to heal me. I don't know if that's like a controversial thing to talk about, but I really do think he used that doctor to heal me. And I'm so thankful for that, because now I can fully give my life to God and not be so scared of everything. I was so scared of everything for so long, and I was so not myself for so long. I didn't even know how to be myself anymore, and now I feel so much better. So that's my story. It's still going on. It was a lifelong story, so there's probably a lot of things I left out, and I am sorry for that, but I hope this got the point across of how much the suffering was. I hope you really truly understand. I don't think I could ever get it across how much I did suffer and how much I went through, but I would like anyone out there who has OCD or is hiding a mental illness, please come out. Like, you don't have to struggle alone. There's always somebody who has dealt with what you're dealing with, and you're not crazy. Just know you're not crazy. If I can tell someone, you can, for sure. Thank you for watching. This is really scary to upload. I never thought I would ever make this video, but today I just felt like I had to. And I don't know if people might make fun of me. They might think I'm like weird, but this is my video, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.